end right through it here and bring Dennis Koulatsos in here from Coons Florida Security Boulevard. You know, Den, I haven't thought much about this. I always mention this to Bill Cole when we do our community series stuff on Wednesday about, being on the couch and psychotherapy and psychoanalysis and helping me through the rough days. I'm figuring right about now this is where civic therapy, this is where you and I need to conduct some civic therapy for those tuning in who are saying, oh, my God, we lost. The season's over. There's no bus trip to New England. The sky's falling. What's going to happen with John Harbaugh? Look at what they did to Joe Flacco. Boo! All of that stuff. And then we measure all of this and say, hey, man, remember we were 4-5 at Halloween?
Yeah. Yeah, we were a good friend of mine just texted me. He said, Dennis, we were circling the drain at 4-5, and he was right. Yeah, going from 4-5 and looking at a 7-9, 9-7 season, getting a home playoff game. Are you kidding me? My only regret now is I don't get to watch these Ravens compete in the playoffs going forward. I want to watch this team. This has been a very fun team to watch. So to me, that's the only negative is that I can't watch my favorite team continue to play other teams in the playoffs. Like it was an ugly loss. It was a home loss. But we lost to a better team. It's okay. Life goes on. Lots of stuff to be happy and positive about, right? We had a home playoff game in how many years? And that's what I think. That was my takeaway. And that's why I'm very happy to be talking to you today. Absolutely.
Well, I mean, everybody gathered, and it really was a thud ending to the season, right? And there was that last little, I don't even know what to call the end of that thing. It was kind of like the last scene in Blazing Saddles. Everybody's kind of running around, and maybe it has a happy ending and maybe it doesn't. But the onside kick and all of that. It wasn't a very good effort. I mean, they were outcoached, they were outplayed, they were out one-on-one, they were out everything on Sunday to some degree, and I think the frustration of the fans, if you want to say they're booing Lamar Jackson, fair enough. I think they were booing the fact that this was a turd of a thud of a playoff home game where they didn't play well.
No, they didn't, but the most amazing part to me, Nestor, was after getting clearly outplayed for 3.5 quarters, with 45 seconds left, they still had a shot to perform a miracle, right? It was still a one-score game. They were still fighting hard. They were overmatched. If you look at both rosters, I think anyone could see that the talent level on these two teams is not commensurate, right? The Chargers went 12-4, division leaders there, trailing only Kansas City for the whole year. With the Ravens, they had to scratch and claw their way into the playoffs versus the Chargers team. It was a foregone conclusion they were going to be in the playoffs. So they've had just a better overall pool of talent that came together for them on that particular Sunday, and they were able to put it all together. No shame in the loss. I don't think it was a lack of effort. I think they tried very hard. They competed until the very end. But yeah, they were outcoached and they were outplayed. It just wasn't their day.
Well, certainly for the Chargers and Gus Bradley moving things around defensively and going with lighter, faster, filling up gaps. I don't think the Ravens really responded well to that. And in how infrequently they used the tight ends and where the running lanes were. And then there's just Lamar and more Lamar, which we're going to be talking all about Lamar. And I know you have the jersey. You're a Lamar guy. Lamar's got a lot of improvement to be made here when it comes to taking care of the football. And then there's the whole part of, well, you're going to drop back and pass. What is going to happen when you don't have the appropriate offensive line to protect him? And I just don't know that he's ever going to be a pocket passer, Dennis. I look at it, I watch it, and I say, this is very, very far from what I've seen really good pocket passers be able to do in the National Football League. This is a different thing, and I know they want it to be a different thing, but this is also a week where John Harbaugh is going to decide his fate, and Steve Bisciotti is going to decide his fate in regard to whether this marriage is going to continue on or whether they're going to dangle this for a year, and I can't imagine that's going to be the case, right? That this is going to either be a long-term marriage in the next 48, 72 hours, or we're going to have some real awkwardness around here, right?
Yeah, I would agree with you on both points. Look, I'm not going to defend Lamar in the way that he played. He certainly could have played a lot better. In terms of taking care of the ball, some of those snaps, they were very, very high from Matt Skura. I mean, the ball was all over the place. And again, he got hit a lot. Lamar Jackson got hit a lot. The offensive line's got to be addressed. The interior, I know that we're looking at Matt Paredes, the Denver Broncos center. he got hurt this season. He'll be a free agent in the offseason. I would think he would be a priority to get him under contract. They need another guard in there, especially if Marshall Yanda decides to hang it up the next year or two, if not now. So they've got to shore up that offensive line. I don't care who's back at quarterback, and that's why I thought it was laughable that people were chanting Joe Flacco's name there in the fourth quarter, and even some in the third quarter, because no one back there would have had any amount of time to set his feet to get the ball downfield. Now, we're still talking about a rookie that's played 8 football games, so let's give him the benefit of the doubt here. Let's give him the benefit of a full off season with the starting wide receivers. Let's see what that wide receiver lineup is going to look like going forward after the off season gets completed. John Harbaugh, I'm glad he said at the presser yesterday that I'm the Ravens coach and I'm going to be here as long as they want me. I thought that was a very telling statement. I think there's mutual respect on both sides. I think there's a willingness and appetite to work things out long term. And I'm a Harbaugh guy. You know that. I love Harbaugh. I think the team plays hard for him. Now, the coordinators, look, they are what they are. Wink did a great job. Maybe Marty, not so much. But again, Marty doesn't play left guard or center. You know, that's part of the equation there, too. So better players do make the coaching staff look that much better. And I think that's going to be on Eric DeCosta in the front office in the offseason to get this thing figured out.
Dennis Koulatsos is with us. He will be with you on Thursday from 3 until 5. It is the SSV on WNST. Also heard on Sunday mornings, and you're going to have plenty of aftermath in all of this, but for you tactically Sunday, so much change between 15 days earlier and on a Saturday night out in Carson on a beautiful, sun-drenched 68-degree evening versus what the Chargers look like, right? Like, this was a team that was a superior team all year long, running one offense, one defense, with some players who are emerging in the Derwin James and guys that are still trying to make their statement about the world. I mean, Phillip Rivers looked across the field and saw Joe Flacco with a jacket on and a ski cap on, and Joe Flacco's got pelts on the wall, right? Probably would have had 2 had Lee Evans grabbed the ball up in Gillette Stadium. Phillip Rivers is still looking to be the author of that story and all of the franchise move and all of the stuff around that. He's now going to have a chance to go up to New England. And I got to tell you, that coaching staff put together a winning game plan and came in here and outcoached the Ravens. They out-X'd and O'd and running 7 defensive backs out onto the field to say, you're not going to run around on us like you did 2 weeks ago. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I didn't realize that 58 out of 59 defensive plays, they had 7 defensive backs in there, 3 down linemen, 1 linebacker, and basically 3 safeties in the box. The Ravens, I don't know if they ever adjusted at all to that scheme, and that's kind of disturbing for me. Of course, I was at the game. I wasn't listening to any broadcast. I was just immersed in the moment, and I wasn't privy to what was going on in regards to strategy and what they were doing. But look. Give him credits, and Joe Flacco, for all the people saying that Joe Flacco kept putting his helmet on his head, well, here's why, because he wanted to listen to the calls. That's why. It wasn't that he was trying to coax John Harbaugh into putting him back in. It was clear that Joe wouldn't go back in there unless Lamar suffered an injury, although Harbaugh did say in his presser that he did consider putting Joe in there at some point in that second half.
Well, the one thing, and Coach Billick joined me earlier as well on behalf of the Living Classrooms Foundation, and he said, if you put Joe in there, they haven't run plays. They've run 0 plays for Joe Flacco over the last 8 weeks, 9 weeks, going back to October now, right, was the last time Joe Flacco was out really throwing passes around to these guys in that way. And then there's just the protection. If you can't protect Lamar, how are you going to protect Joe? And what packages are you putting in for Joe at that point? Maybe there would be some confusion for the Chargers, but I'm sure they'd be more familiar with anything that looked like a traditional offense than chasing Lamar Jackson around, which they had real trouble doing the first 30 minutes in Carson, and the next 30 minutes was an adjustment, and then Gus Bradley, who was a failure in Jacksonville, but is a genius as a coordinator, right, going back to Seattle, schemed it up, and they're going to go play Tom Brady this week, and we're not.
Yeah, I was just amazed at the Ravens' offense with Lamar Jackson. They were able to score 2 late touchdowns. The Chargers have switched to a cover 2. Deep zone, which I don't understand how you let guys get behind you, first of all. So they tried to give the game away late, and it would have been a great finish, right? A great ending, and I felt bad for the fans who had left early. They were frustrated. after the Chargers went up on the Ravens, and I get it, but I'm glad that I stayed. I'm glad I didn't have to watch the game on my cell phone outside of the stadium. I'm just very grateful for the season, Nestor. We were 4-5 a few weeks ago, as you mentioned, Halloween, and look, we got a bonus. We got a home playoff game. Yes, it was painful. It wasn't as painful as the 2006 game when we lost to the Colts with Peyton Manning, the 5-2 field goal game, right? And look, they fought hard. They came back, and they had a shot at the end when they were clearly overmatched, outplayed, outhit, and outcoached.
Dennis Koulatsos is here. He's out of Coons, Florida, Security Boulevard. They're getting the year started off right out there. And, of course, if you're on our WNST text service, you always get the breaking news first. There will be some breaking news to John Harbaugh one way or another this week, whether it comes to extensions or hokey pokey. What do you expect to happen? You fully expect sort of calm and Flacco to be dealt for a third-round pick to the Dolphins? I mean, give me your crystal ball on all this, Dan.
Well, speaking of the Dolphins, I have a good friend of mine who is he's very knowledgeable with sports, and he's convinced that Harbaugh is going to go to the Dolphins for 2 first-round draft picks. So to me, as long as John doesn't want too much say over personnel matters, he'll stay with the Ravens. The other part of it could be the term of a contract, the amount of money. But Joe Flacco, there's definitely a market for a quarterback of his caliber. A couple of college quarterbacks are not coming out in the draft. There's really no one out there. There's so many quarterback-leading teams, the Redskins, the Jaguars, the Dolphins, the Buccaneers. It just goes on and on. I think we'll get more than a third-round draft pick for Flacco because the demand is out there for quarterbacks. We'll get a second, in my opinion, as a minimum. And in a perfect world, we may even get a first out of him, depending on how much interest. And I think there'll be significant interest of a man with Joe Flacco's resume.
I think you'll get a second and a sixth out of him. I think that would be
like that.
That would be good. That as far as I can tell. And
yeah, we don't have a second this year, and that's for sure. It feels that that second round draft that we gave up to move up to draft Lamar Jackson.
My predictions in the coaching space, it really is about Bisciotti and Harbaugh themselves, and I know them both enough to know that I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I know John probably as well as anybody in the media here, and I only would know tendencies. And his brother changes jobs every 4 years, right? And Coach Billick and I chatted about, Bill Walsh saying 10 years was enough, and where Marvin is, and where Sean Payton is right now, and where Andy Reid is right now on his second job, saying, you know what, the second time around, if you go to Miami, if you go to Green Bay, if you take the Jets job, you're gonna have some freshness about you the second time around if you professionally decide you want another owner, another situation, another lot in life at this point. This is the time in your life where you're going to take on a new project or you're going to go all in on the project you've been working on. You know what I mean? And I think every 50-year-old man goes through that in our society. You're lucky enough to be able to say, I can pick to sell cars at Coons Ford or do sports radio at WNST, or I could do something else with my life. But this is where I have to decide that, right? If I'm going to have a second thing, I need to do that. That's interesting for John. It's also interesting for Steve and for Eric and for Dick, the organization, to say, do we want something new? We have a new quarterback. We have a new fan base. I think we could all agree from the booing and cheering on first down last week when the team has the ball that there are different fans here, and that Steve successfully moved on from one Super Bowl winning coach to another. Wouldn't it be another feather in Steve's cap if he found another Super Bowl winning head coach and John went off like Andy Reid and flowered his universe in Miami or Jacksonville, wherever it's going to be, right? These are two accomplished alpha, right? I mean, testosterone filled. They both have pelts on the wall. We're talking about a $50 million transaction here, right, Dennis? I mean, it's a $50 million deal we're talking about. And there are plenty of other girls at the party that would love to hire John, right? But then what does Steve do? Who's Steve going to turn to? Is this a time in Steve's life where he wants to conduct the next great job search to find the next $4 million head coach, the next Lamar Jackson, So this is a crossroads for these two human beings, and I think the next 48 to 72 hours will iron all that out, or not, right?
Well, here's my viewpoint on that, Nestor. If I have a $2 billion plus investment, which is what Steve Bisciotti has in the Ravens, do I want a proven investment manager at $50 million, or do I want an unproven one at $25 million? To me, for the difference in the money, give me the guy with the pelts on the wall. Give me the proven winner. I also don't subscribe to the 10-year theory. I know that Walsh put it out there. I know Coach Billick also believes that. When you look at a guy like Bill Belichick, he blows that theory away. I was 54 years ago. This is my 14th year at Coonsford, Baltimore. I would like to think I'm much smarter than I was back 4 years ago. I would like to think I'm better. And I think it's the same thing with any professional, including NFL head coaches. I don't think they get stupider, over space and time. I think they get smarter. So for me, for my money, I'm all in with John Harbaugh. He doesn't show any signs of slowing down. He's just as fired up as ever. You see the players play hard for him. We haven't had the drama and baloney that they've had over there in Pittsburgh with our good friend Mike Tomlin, right? We don't have receivers mouthing off and blah, blah, blah. And this is a team that missed 3 playoff seasons in a row. Never had anything come out of the locker room remotely negative.
Hey, by the way, they changed quarterbacks and benched the Super Bowl. They benched the modern Johnny Unitas around here, literally. And even Joe showed his class and dignity in the end and will continue to do so. So, they've weathered a lot of storms around here, John Harbaugh and Steve Bisciotti. They have, and this is another storm to weather, which includes losing Ozzie, right? I mean, that's another part of this that's going on right now.
Well, are they truly losing Ozzie? I mean, when any time the prior GM has an office in a corner somewhere, I'd be nervous about that. I wouldn't. I really don't care much for that. I think DaCosta needs to run his own show, put his own fingerprints, and I'm sure he will. Look, the notion that the move to play Lamar Jackson came from above, I don't subscribe to that. I don't think John Harbaugh would ever sit and say, okay, he's not going to let the owner. He's not the type of coach to let the owner call the shots for him. I think the decision to start Lamar Jackson, to stick with him once Joe was healthy, was John Harbaugh's decision. Doesn't mean he didn't have input from other people, but he has full control of this team. He has full respect and command of this team. And I know that a lot of probably half the fan base would like to see him gone. The other half wants to see him stay. And I like to see him stay. I like the guy. I think he's a classy head coach. He's a CFO head coach. Look, does he have faults? We all do. There's always something that we're all working on, right? There is no perfect coach unless your name is Bill Belichick, and you've done some things in the past that haven't always been above board when it comes to winning either. So
I just call him a cheater, but okay, you have it however you want,
There you go. You can put lipstick on it, but it's still a pig, with all due respect. But I like Harbaugh. I think the reason why the Ravens have missed the playoffs more than they made in the last few years, I put that on the front office, the lack of talent, the lack of playmakers, the lack of high-end talent, if you will. And I think if DaCosta can hit on a wide receiver that can actually gain separation, high point, catch the ball, all that good stuff, win 50-50 battles, we address the offensive line and put some pieces around Lamar Jackson. I think they have. We've seen what they can do, and like you said, who makes a change in midseason like this, benches a Super Bowl winning quarterback, and gets a home playoff game to boot? Look, we didn't get the outcome that we wanted, but that's life, right? It's not always rainbows and sunshine. Sometimes you got to put up with the rain. And look, my only regret is I don't get to see this wonderful team compete going forward in the playoffs.
My only regret is I was ready to go to New England and have some clam chowder on Saturday night, and on the north end or whatever they call that, up there, and freeze a little bit and have the wind hit me in the face, and get down to Gillette Stadium and hear that, hear that foghorn.
It wasn't meant to be, man. It just wasn't meant to be, right? It's not going to happen every season. We got a taste of the playoffs again. The Kansas City game brought me back in all the way, 100% as a fan. So I'm very thankful to the Ravens. We won 13 seasons without football around here, and it was 13 awfully quiet seasons. We had to watch other teams in other stadiums while our marching band marched on. Right, we had a marching band without a team. I'm very grateful, very respectful of the fact that we have a team, and I'm going to support them 100% going forward.
Den, take care of yourself. I will catch up with you later on in the week. I'm still licking my wounds. We'll see how the aftermath of all of this, the shakeout with the coaching situation and solidifying all that, and who's going to wind up in which seat. But it is a little bit of a, it takes a decompression period for me. You know, Sunday night I sort of tweeted that I'm emotionally spent. I know that well, part of it is I know I'm going to wake up on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and be talking about it all day, every day, and trying to make some sense of all of it and say, what does this mean moving forward? And also knowing that, you know, there is no baseball season here, right? I mean, I'm not being mean. I'm just, there is no football this week or next week or the week after that or for 8 more months. And now it's all about where's Joe Flacco going to be? What are they going to do with C.J. Mosley? How's Ozzy's exit going to be handled? Who's going to coach the team? You know, all those kind of questions, right?
Yeah, I would agree with you. But look, there's still great football to watch. We watched the Bears and the Eagles. We watched that field goal. Chris goes, he said, Dad, the Bears kicker has missed 10 field goals this season. I said, son, he's going to miss number 11 right here. So, of course, it clunked off the goalpost and off the crossbar. He said, how did you know? That's when the playoffs, everything just gets amped up so much, right? It's magnified. There's a lot more pressure. They just iced him. He made the first field goal. This is why we're going to continue watching this great sport of football throughout the playoffs, even though our team isn't in it.
Andrew Luck, Nick Foles, right? Dak Prescott, and Phillip Rivers. The one thing I would say in retrospect, Dennis, if you took the helmets off of them and my allegiance off of them, and I said this to Luke, if I were really being clear-headed and sober about this, you would look at Phillip Rivers and where he is in his career and what he doesn't have and what he wants, and you would look at a quarterback starting his first playoff game who just got into the league 8 weeks ago, and you would look at their age and their pedigree and the teams around them and their records this year, and you would find it very, very hard to like the Ravens, and Vegas found it hard to like the Ravens too, didn't they? You know what I mean? Even at home. And there is something to, what do they say? Experience, right? You know, good judgment is from experience, and experience comes from bad judgment.
Yeah. Well, the other difference between Phillip Rivers and Lamar Jackson, it's 9 kids, right? I mean, he's talking about a guy with 9 children. I'll be rooting hard for Phillip Rivers and the Chargers as they go up against the evil empire in the form of the New England Patriots over the weekend.
Guy's got 9 kids. You think he can't identify the Mike linebacker?
He can identify a lot more than the Mike linebacker, right? So good luck to him. The better team won. No hard feelings. I'm grateful. It is what it is. Looking forward to it. It's going to be a very, very interesting offseason for the Ravens for sure. And I've been working on the NFL draft already. I know the Ravens are picking 22nd in the first round in 2019. So I'm already locked and loaded for that part of the year.
Well, unless they deal Flacco for something higher, right?
Yeah, you know what? That's a great point. He gets dealt an also-ran team, then you get a number one. Look, I'll take
what pick did the Dolphins have? What pick are they going to deal us for Harbaugh today? What's that going to be?
I have to look, but look at this, Nestor. They get 2 from the Dolphins for Harbaugh, and they get a 1 from the Buccaneers for Flacco. Now you got 4 first-round draft picks. Now we're in La La Land, right? Now we got a whole different thing, a set of circumstances to talk about here in Baltimore. I
don't think the Buccaneers are giving us their 1. By the way, the Dolphins have the 13th pick, so we can have the lucky 13 there if you want. And yeah, the Buccaneers pick 5th. We're not getting the 5th pick. The Buccaneers might give us their 2, so it might give us the 36th pick, 37th pick.
And we had John Gruden and Mike Mayock there lurking in the background. they both love quarterbacks that have 3 number 1 draft picks in the 2019 draft. Don't be surprised.
Mayock, get me Joe Flacco. I want Flacco out here. We'll take Flacco to Vegas.
Flacco in Vegas sounds really good to me for the sport of football, for the NFL, for the Raiders and the league. I think that'd be a great fit for Joe Flacco to go. The big arm, right? They can retool that offense, get him some other players, some receivers. They have enough draft capital to move up and do some great things up there. So that'd be wonderful for all parties involved.
Dennis will be out on the SSV on WNST on Twitter every day assessing who's going to give their number 1 draft pick up for Joe Flacco.
That's right. Somebody will. I think somebody will. I really believe that.
I don't believe you're giving a 1, but if not for a 1-year rental and then have to give him more money. But
supply and demand. A lot of demand, very, very little supply. It's him and Nick Foles and nobody else. And what happens if Nick Foles wins the Super Bowl? How do you get rid of a 2-time Super Bowl winner when you have Carson Wentz on your team? very, very intriguing stuff here in the playoffs, Nestor.
Supply and demand, taking me back to my economics class at Dundalk Community College. I like it.
That's Econ 101, right? Economics 101, low supply quarterbacks, high demand. And you can't win with that one. And you got one that can still sling the pill pretty good, as we saw the first few games of the season.
So well that they didn't even pull him off the bench in the playoffs. So,
yeah, well, it is what it is. He's not the Ravens' future. He's the past, but somebody will take a shot on that pass, and I believe he's going to command a number 1 draft pick.
He's no Zach Britton, and I know Buck Showalter, and you know Buck Showalter, Dennis Koulatsos. So
that's correct.
Something
that
like
is correct,
that.
Sir.
I did hear a little bit of that, though, right? I mean, the Britton comparisons there is some similarity, right?
There is, just a little bit.
Hey, man.
Look, it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be great for sports talk radio for sure.
We'll stir it up. He'll be stirring up on Thursday from 3 until 5. It is the SSV on WNST. Dennis Koulatsos also, of course, bringing you the WNST text service. If there is any breaking news, anything weird that happens, your pocket will jiggle, and it'll say WNST text, and you'll know it's breaking news and never spam. All brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 at WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.